Welcome, everyone, to the Merced Mayoral Candidate Forum. My name is Minnie, and I am one of your moderators. It is a pleasure and an honor to be with you today.
Good afternoon. My name is Elise Redden, and I'm a veteran in this community, 24 years Air Force to say, and I'm a community advocate here in Merced. I'm also your moderator. I am pleased to be in partnership with the following organizations who are hosting this event: the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU of Northern California, Central Valley United for Power, Communities for New California, Cultiva El Valle Central, Faith in the Valley, Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, and the Youth Leadership Institute.
We're really happy to be hosting this event for you today. We have two candidates running for mayor of Merced. We've developed 14 questions that encompass multiple issues that affect us all, including housing, infrastructure, transportation, houselessness, policing, water, and youth voice, to name a few.
We also want to hear from you, our audience. We are curious about your vision for the city of Merced. The purpose of the forum is to give community members an opportunity to hear directly from their candidates who might represent them in the future. Now for some housekeeping rules before we get started. The restrooms are located outside the main doors, that direction. Emergency exits are on either side as well through the back. Please silence your cell phones to avoid disruptions. Childcare is available. If you need it, please see Blanca. And we still have light snacks and refreshments available at the table to my right. Lastly, we've placed pens and index cards at your tables for any last minute or follow-up questions. Please write them legibly.
Now let's review the candidate forum rules. To ensure our candidate forum is productive and respectful, we've established some ground rules. These guidelines are designed to create an environment conducive to fair and informative dialogue, allowing each candidate the opportunity to share their views effectively while maintaining a respectful and orderly forum. We expect all participants, including candidates and audience members, to adhere to these rules throughout the event. By doing so, we can have a meaningful exchange of ideas that benefit everyone involved, particularly the voters seeking to make informed decisions. Now, some ground rules are: all candidates will receive equal time to speak based on the allotted time for each question. You will be timed. You will be asked to stop if you go over the time. You'll first see a green 30-second sign when you have 30 seconds left, a yellow 10-second sign when you have 10 seconds remaining, a red stop sign when your time is up. Candidates must engage in respectful civil discourse, do not interrupt or speak over one another. Personal attacks or derogatory language are prohibited. Candidates should strictly adhere to the topics or questions presented. Distribution of campaign materials inside the forum venue is not allowed, as this is a city-owned property. The audience is kindly asked to refrain from applause or vocal reactions during the forum. Please refrain from clapping or cheering for or against a particular candidate. These rules are designed to ensure a fair, informative, and respectful event for both the candidates and the audience. Lastly, this event is being simultaneously interpreted into Spanish and Hmong, so we do ask candidates to speak slowly to give interpreters ample time to capture your statement.
Candidate introductions. Each candidate has 90 seconds to introduce themselves and give a brief statement about their vision for Merced with an overview of their key issues. So we start now. So I'm going to start off with Mr. Macerato. Please share.
The what? Okay. I can talk loud if that's...
No.
That works. That works. All right, thank you. I want to welcome everybody here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate everybody who cares about our city, loves our city, working hard in whatever way they can to make our city better. That's been my commitment over the last 4 years as your mayor, and previously 4 years before that on your city council as well. Also in all kinds of other volunteer work that I do and other things as well. All of it has a heart for this community right at the center of it. The last 4 years, not just working hard, addressing the big issues in town, housing, homelessness, transportation, water, economic development, with an eye, again, towards our continued needs in those areas, but also focusing really big time, hopefully second term, on roads, on we've done a ton with our parks as well, too. Huge improvements in our parks the last few years. This is not just something I do a little bit. This is really something we work so hard on, trying to bring the community together, rallying the community in so many other ways as well, too. Our volunteer programs. I apologize that for my appearance right now. We just got done with a cleanup a few minutes ago, so we based it at Joe Herb Park. Did a great job. Got a huge contribution from UC Merced as well to bring them out. So thank you all for being here, and looking forward to hearing all your questions today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Anthony Levy Martinez.
Testing. Okay, great. My name is Anthony Martinez. I was born and raised in Merced. I'm from this area. I believe in this area. I lived a few years in college, but that was just in college, and I always knew I was going to come back and try to help this area. I can't tell you why. I can tell you that ever since I was in my teens, I always had this feeling that I was supposed to go out and get something and come back and bring it here to help the people of Merced. And the older I've gotten, I've started to see that materialize. It started in the schools and where I coached, being able to help the kids and share with the kids that I was like them, that I screwed around like them, that I messed up like them, that I made my mistakes, but that doesn't mean that's all you are. That you can rise above that and become more, that you can evolve as a person. And what I would say, if you really want to know something about me, is that I believe that a person should always be trying to evolve, always be trying to grow and better themselves. And I believe a part of that, at least a big part of that for me, is how to take care of this city, evolve with this city. So one thing that I believe in as far as Merced is that I believe that we can come together as a town in order to solve the issues that have always plagued this area. Issues like crime, homelessness, graffiti, violence, the things about this community that we've always tried to fix, but the solution has always slipped away from our hands. Well, I believe in order to solve these things, we have to come together as a community. There are certain values that I grew up with: faith, family, hard work, resilience, service. These are the things that made me the person I am today. And I believe that we can rally the community around these values and uplift people through Merced values. And by doing that, we can make this city better for our children and our children's children. Thank you.
So the first question that I have for you is, what policies do you propose to ensure that residents will not be displaced through evictions? You have 90 seconds to answer this, and the first one to answer would be Anthony Martinez.
You know, when it comes to evictions and the eviction rates and things like that, I mean, I think there's always, I've been renting for a long time, and I know that sometimes certain landlords try to take advantage of situations. I think sometimes certain landlords feel like if they can squeeze a little more money, or if they can avoid doing certain repairs, things like that, that's probably what you're going to see. And I believe that from the city standpoint, I'm not really very interested in trying to dictate the market or dictate price in the market, but I do think it is important to hold landlords accountable towards their tenants and the obligations they have towards their tenants. What I'm getting at is there are certain people, I mean, not to say any names, but just my experience living and renting for quite some time, certain people try to vacate their duties when it comes to repairs. Certain people try to vacate their duties when it comes to keeping the property right or keeping the neighborhood right. And then they want to rent out tenants when they feel like they can raise the price. I think the state has done a decent job in trying to combat that. And I would wonder if maybe the state with rent control, things like that, are probably much more informed in terms of the market effect to be carrying out policies like that. But we as a city, we can do a lot to support residents and support tenants. And I think we need to be doing that. And so I guess when it comes to the involvement, the city's involvement should be to make sure that the landlords are following the laws and that the tenants have everything they need to rent the spaces they want and to be able to basically live their lives without worrying about one more obstacle to overcome. Thank you.
Next is Matthew.
Thank you. Landlords and tenants, just like employers and employees, it's one of those relationships where people need each other in a big way. Landlords need tenants, tenants need landlords. It's a mutually symbiotic relationship. There's a massive amount of law built statewide around that relationship, trying to regulate that relationship. So it's a very, very important relationship. Both sides need each other. Us at the city, it's using our code enforcement powers, which we do very frequently, to ensure adequate facilities, make sure landlords are complying with their obligations as well. There's a whole private market as well. The courts play an enormous role, and the courts hear a lot of landlord-tenant disputes. California has a whole regimen of laws that must be followed. We're there to enforce those laws in a lot of ways through our code enforcement. Also at the city's end as well is ensuring an adequate housing supply. So you see it at the state level. You see the state coming down actually right now in a lot of cities. I believe notably City of Elk Grove, City of Huntington Beach, there's been state actions against them for not building enough housing or for turning down housing projects. That's not at all what our council's been about. That's not what I've been about. We've been aggressively approving every housing project that comes before us. We've been putting our own money into affordable housing projects. Between our home key projects and our affordable housing projects during the last few years, 700 units of affordable housing, which are coming online in the near future, as well hundreds of units of market rate apartments also coming in the near future as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So my question is, if elected, what housing policies and programs will you advance to ensure that residents have access to quality and affordable housing, including for low-income Mercedians? You have 90 seconds to answer, and we're going to start with Matt.
Thank you. First is our building codes. That is a primary way that we ensure that the new houses that are built are adequate as well. So when we, in our engineering department, our city departments are looking at new housing developments, looking at new apartment developments, they're looking closely at those to make sure that they meet different standards. Code enforcement, as I mentioned earlier, and then when it comes to aggressively expanding supply, which we have, Merced's one of the fastest growing cities in the state, one of the fastest growing cities in the state over the last few years, will continue to do so. And when it comes with our Childs and B project, 120 units, our 1213 V Street project, 96 units, Devonwood project, 156 units, already moving, starting to build up. Yosemite Parkway and Parsons as well, the Bella Vista project, 108 units. So all these projects are projects where we put our skin in the game. We put city money in. We use that to attract significant state grants, federal tax credits as well, using a whole broad array of funding. They call it the lasagna layer of funding, all these different layers of funding, put it all together, and then we create these projects. A number of other projects as well are Link Housing Project downtown, slated to be built in 26 or 27 with 54 units. We streamlined a lot of our processes. Our city department, based on changes that our council gave direction for, won regional planning awards for their infill design programs. We've reduced our infill fees as well, in addition to our AAU.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anthony?
Are we able to repeat the question?
Well, if elected, what housing policies and programs will you advance to ensure that residents have access to quality and affordable housing, including for low-income Mercedians?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think the council has done pretty decent work so far in sort of establishing minimum requirements that new developers need to meet when it comes to different levels of affordable housing. And I believe that these efforts we should continue to focus on, because I think what happens is when you develop new neighborhoods, you don't want to have just one class of neighborhood over here and then another class of neighborhood all the way over there. This is how you get a town divided, because you have the rich side of town and the bad side of town. When you're developing new neighborhoods, you want to make sure you have a healthy balance in those neighborhoods. And so the policies that we can have in terms of making sure that developments have certain quotas or certain standards so that they have all classes met within the neighborhoods, this is very significant. I think good work has been done on this in the past, and we should continue put forth on those efforts, double down on those efforts. Now, as far as the creating permanent supportive housing, things like that, I think it's very important that when we're creating these different types of housings for lower income people, maybe even people on the streets, we need to be very mindful of what exactly the third party is doing with the money we're giving them. Because lots of times you give money over and it takes years and years and years to develop something, and then by the time it's built, it doesn't even have the power to do what it was originally planned to do because the problem of, let's say, homelessness or things like that have overwhelmed it. So I think the future of Merced when it comes to housing is to build out our housing department so we can have these things built in-house. If we can take care of things in-house, then we can monitor things a lot better and make sure they are efficient and they work for all residents of Merced. Thank you.
If elected, what are some solutions you propose to ensure existing disadvantaged communities, such as those in South Merced, get the infrastructure improvements and investments they need, including road improvements, sidewalks, lights, water, stormwater, drainage, and sewer? You have 90 seconds, and we'll start off with Anthony Martinez.
We good? Okay. So we're talking about like how we can develop infrastructure going forward, yes, in different parts of town? Wonderful. This is a very pertinent issue because as you can tell, the city is growing, the city is expanding, and I think it's very significant you have to have a vision for what exactly you're trying to grow towards. Like in my example, just an outsider looking in, it seems like over the past few years, we have tried to expand the city in terms of housing developments, but we have tried to contract the city, shrink it, in terms of business. So we're trying to concentrate business in the downtown area, but we're trying to expand neighborhoods all throughout town. But then that means that people have to drive miles and miles and miles to get basic necessities. So what I'm getting at is we should be forward thinking with our zoning and forward thinking with our planning of, all right, if you're going to build a complex here and then you're going to build neighborhood houses here, where's the grocery stores going to go? Where are the banks going to go? Things like that. It seems like now we're basically just approving developers that want to build stuff. This is why we have so many gas stations where we don't need gas stations. I think it's El Redondo in Yosemite, a beautiful neighborhood, maybe one of the most beautiful new neighborhoods in the area, and they just put a gas station right in the middle of it. I don't know if the residents asked for that, but as far as I know, it's probably not a very good fit, especially when less than a mile down the road, there's a gas station right there. Stuff like this hinders infrastructure because once that gas station's built, it's going to be a gas station for like the next 50 years. You can't just make something new there. You can't just decide now we want a community center. You're done at that point. So I think it's very key to make sure that when you approve these developments, you have a vision. You have a plan for how we're going to bring things to the area that people need and people want. And that way they don't have to drive miles and miles and miles for basic necessities. Thank you.
You're good.
Yeah. Next, we have Serrato.
South Merced infrastructure has been a big focus for us over the last few years. It will continue to be. We've redone G Street, a significant arterial in South Merced from 13th to Childs. Redid B Street as well as part of the development of the Childs and B project. In past years, we've redone M Street, N Street. Those are the big arterials in town. Those are recently paved. Those are roads that are in very good condition. So that's been a focus. Sidewalk projects as well, to your question. We have, just looking through our agendas just from the last year, we have over $5 million in sidewalk projects that have been approved, and many of them are currently underway. Notably, two big ones in South Merced, the Golden Valley to Weaver project along Childs, which is about to break ground, a project that people have been hoping for a long, long time. We were able to get that done. That's over $1 million project. In addition to that, the Motel Drive project, which we completed earlier in my term as well, which is a big development, is there as well. Currently, the R to 13th Street, or the R Street 13th to Childs sidewalk projects going. Other sidewalk projects down McGregor, Windsor, Home, a lot of those areas over there, filling it in. We've got a big city map, all the sidewalk gaps. We're focusing on that. Millions in South Merced sidewalks. Need to continue on roads as well, not just the big reconstruction projects, but the cheaper asphalt overlay projects as well that enable us to do a lot more.
Thank you. Next, how will you ensure all residents, including children, youth, and seniors, have access to safe, vibrant parks and accessible community spaces and recreational programs? You have 90 seconds, and we're going to start with you, Matt.
Thank you. Again, parks has been a huge focus of mine and a big focus of our council over the past few years. I think we've had a lot of success with our park improvements. Looking at McNamara Park, for example, I think McNamara Park in a huge way has really been transformed with a new playground, new bathroom, new shade structure, new murals, really a different space than it was a few years ago. Our Community Park 42 for 20 years long, a dream of Merced to have that built. We were able to get that started. The first 2 phases are underway and slated to be completed sometime in the middle of next year. That's first 2 phases of a 40-acre regional sports complex down at Mission and Tyler, and it's adjacent to an additional 40-acre stretch that's school district owned, that's in the county, and the county, through their ARPA program, allotted $1.5 million to begin the planning and environmental phases on that too. So once done, 80-acre sports complex down at Mission and Tyler. In addition to that, a number of other park improvements as well. Really excited about our Ada Givens Park. The pool at Ada Givens closed for probably 15 years. A lot of people had great memories of growing up there and swimming, able to get that reopened. And just to be able to go there this summer and see kids swimming in there and see the joy on their faces was really exciting to see. Zoo, Kittyland, huge features of Merced, big projects to get coming very soon to get those done. Art, murals, Farron's Park Playground, got that done. A couple $100,000 we have allotted for Joe Herb. Number of other projects.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we want to hear from Anthony.
Sure, let's talk about parks. So I think one of the first things that we probably need to do is really clean up our parks. We have to protect our parks. I see many of our parks, they've been vandalized, or there's drug paraphernalia, or there's equipment that's been broken, play equipment is tagged up. We need to create a better environment for families to enjoy themselves. And if that means that there are certain people in the park that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and it's up to us as a city to go to these people and try to give them services if they need services. But if they don't want services, or if they want to take advantage of the situation, now we got to start cracking down, because we have to protect our parks. I don't see anything wrong with going to certain people and saying that have been, not good people to our parks and telling them we're going to protect these parks. And if you want help, we're more than willing to get you the help you need and get you the services you need. But it is not okay to just trash the parks, to litter the parks with drug paraphernalia, or to vandalize the playground equipment. Once the parks are cleaned up, man, I think our parks are already so beautiful. There's so much we can do. Right now we do movies in the park where they go different parks around town and show a movie. Well, I think we can double down, triple down on that with music in the park, where we recruit local bands and we set up stages in different areas at different parks around town, and then we do concerts. So food trucks can come out, families can come out, and they can enjoy a concert. We can also do things like yoga in the park, where maybe every one of the weekends that we have different parks, there's a yoga instructor with different people from the community. We can do vendors in the park, where now small businesses can set up shop as a vendor. So if you have all those different types of things, that'll give you different types of people visiting the park, because there's different events for everybody. That's how I think we can really expand and grow our parks for the better of Merced, everyone in Merced. Thank you.
So my next question to you is, how will you make sure that youth voices are heard and included in decision making? You have 90 seconds, starting off with Anthony.
Thank you. I think the first thing that I would do is I'm going to go into the schools. I'm going to go into all the middle schools and all the high schools. I'm going to speak to the principals about a day to speak with the students. And I'll take the day off work. It's all good. But I'm more than happy to go into the schools and talk to the kids and have maybe an assembly with them or hang out with them at lunch. And I want to talk to them about their city, because I want to reestablish pride in our city. And I think our youth need to be proud of where they're from. I think our youth need to see somebody that struggled here in Merced, but then made it out and was able to come back and help Merced, help to inspire the youth. I think that if you can make the youth feel connected to your town, there's a lot you can do with just making them feel a part of this community. I think there are things in the budget we can do. Like, for example, there are community centers right now. Heck, even this one, we have to start investing in a new Boys and Girls Club, because this building's about to be demolished. So where's the next one gonna go if we're not looking at that right now, planning that right now? And I think we should go to the young adults and say, hey, what do you think where the youth center should go? Should it be combined with the senior center? What kind of amenities should it have? I think it's very important to involve the youth. Summer at City Hall, that was a great program. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but if it is, then I think that's definitely something we need to double down on. If it's not, that's something we need to restart. I think we need to expand our sports, our sports that we have, the sports activities. If we can at least get not just sports, but other activities in contribution to that, arts and crafts, different activities like that. Get a well-rounded version for kids to experience. They'll have pride in this town, and they'll enjoy this town, and they'll love this town. Thank you.
Goes have to be always adjust. Anyway, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go with this. Merced residents face issues with...
I still had to...
Excuse me?
Oh, I hadn't gone yet. That last question was my... No. With youth engagement and making sure youth voices are heard, I think a lot of what Anthony said rings true. It's really engaging the youth, getting out, speaking to young people, making sure they have a voice, making sure they have access to you as an elected official. That's something I pride myself on immensely. It's something I've made a huge priority to do over the last few years. Going to schools is something I do very, very frequently, talking to people in schools, talking to classes, going in there and opening up to them and saying, what questions do you have? What do you want to see out of your city? And it's kids of all ages. Whether it's Merced High School and if you ever get the chance, Merced High's election convention, which they do every year, is an unbelievable event where they mimic the Democratic or the Republican National Convention, and they do it here with their elected officials as well. So going to that event, speaking in schools, which again is something I do very regularly. Our park cleanups are very, very youth focused and youth involved. Just a few minutes ago, I was riding around with several high school students, with a number of UC Merced students as well. They were in my truck, and we were going around talking about the city, talking about things we can do. So really engaging those youth, getting that youth voice, and something again I've tried to prioritize in a very significant way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, and sorry for the confusion. Merced residents face issues with speeding and pedestrian safety. How will you address these concerns? And 90 seconds, and we're going to start with you, Matt.
Thank you. Traffic safety is a big concern in our town. There's too many traffic deaths. There's too many people speeding. There's too many traffic violations. It's hard because, as a city, we have to do our best to play offense, right? To do things to affirmatively improve the city, but we also got to play defense as well, which means, make sure everybody takes care of each other, takes care of their town, and that's where a traffic enforcement and our traffic division comes in a big way. So whether it's the way we design our streets, and as we look forward, how are we designing our streets? How are the streets looking? We have a big downtown road improvement project coming as well, and a big part of that is to slow the streets down, to narrow the streets, increase parking as well. So street design is a big thing. Traffic enforcement, our police department, under the leadership of our new chief in the last year or so, has really doubled down on traffic enforcement. They've increased the number of traffic citations they've written. That's a big part of it as well. People need to know that they're going to be held accountable if they do things that are going to put other people in danger. It's on our public works as well to have good lighting, good signage. The council, this is something I fought for, we worked on, recently funded and recently awarded a contract to increase and enhance all the streetlights across town. Merced's too dark as well, especially at night. So we now are going to have much brighter streetlights that have better canopy coverage as well. So a lighter, brighter city, and just getting the word out, holding people accountable, and educating people on the value of traffic safety. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to our roads, many of our roads have been damaged and haven't really had much repairs over the years. I think there's a lot of, whether it's signage, or whether it's the lanes themselves, whether there's potholes, traffic is a huge congestion problem with traffic. So let's say someone's trying to get to another side of town, and why are they speeding? Maybe they're speeding because traffic's so congested, so they're trying to take alternate routes and speed through neighborhoods to get where they got to go. In the general plan, it's laid out certain streets that need to be built out that haven't been built out yet. And because of this, you get a street like, let's say, McKee, for example. McKee is generally used as like an artery street to run through across town. But McKee was never designed for that. So now McKee, anytime you go down it, potholes all over the place because it's being overused. In the general plan, it says to build out Parsons. Parsons is supposed to go basically from one Yosemite to the other. So Yosemite over there on, let's say by Yosemite on the north side of town, supposed to go all the way through, over the creek, over the tracks, and then all the way by Golden Valley. I would wonder if people could take this route if maybe now they're not using McKee. So I think filling out the general plan is extremely important. It's also important to take care of our roads, because if there's bad roads, that's just going to lead to people changing their driving habits because they don't want to go down those roads, and now other roads get worn down. So developing our roads and the traffic light situation, when you're at traffic lights and it's taking a very long time to move, well, I mean, I sort of believe how they say time is money. Like if you can make traffic go faster, that means money can change hands faster. This means this can also stimulate the economy. And it's also going to stop people from speeding because now they're not running late so much. So I guess all of those things combined, if you really want to impact traffic, that's how you got to do it. Thank you.
So what are your long-term and short-term goals to address the needs of the unhoused population of Merced? You have 90 seconds, starting with Anthony.
Okay, so short term, what I see right now is I see us getting a lot of money and creating a lot of services, and I think that's a very good first step. But I also feel like one of the ways that we can improve those services is to basically have greater oversight of who we're giving the money to, and are they keeping their programs up to what we would call Merced standards. Now, I'm not saying that programs are doing a bad job. What I'm saying is Merced is a very unique place. And so if there are certain things that we know as a city that a third party that we bring in to do something may not know, then we can help them. But we can't help them if we just funnel the money to them and say, okay, go ahead and do your thing. So I think a big part of it is understanding how we need to have control over the programs that we're bringing in that help the homeless. I think there are certain people in the homeless community that maybe they're not trying to get off the streets as much as just continue their hustle. And I'm not trying to judge anybody, but I would say this: if someone's not trying to take advantage of the services we're giving them in a positive way, and instead they're taking advantage of it in a negative way, we got to get them out of there. And instead, we need to put somebody who's on the streets right now struggling and wants help. We need to get them in there. If you know who's messing up and who ain't trying to get it together versus the people that need the help on the streets, and now you can be more efficient because you can say, all right, this person's really not trying to better their lives. We need to get them out of here. This person really needs the help, or they're gonna face severe health consequences if we don't get them the help. Now you can be effective in helping your peoples. Long term, we really got to look at the things in this city that cause homelessness, the poverty, the drugs, the crime, and this is what we need to double down on long term to get people out of that cycle of despair. This way they don't end up homeless. Thank you.
Next, we have Matthew.
Thank you. Homelessness has been a huge area of concern for us and will continue to be that. We, over the last few years, our unsheltered count in the city of Merced is actually down 12%, which is really, still we have a long way to go, and homelessness remains an enormous challenge, but encouraged to see some progress over the last 3 years. 12% drop against roughly a state 12+% drop. State numbers are roughly a state 12% increase. I apologize. You recently saw the state numbers come out for last year showing roughly about an 8% increase. So to see our numbers go down is encouraging. That said, there's still too many people on our streets. We need to continue to work hard to engage them. That's our outreach teams. We've done a good job working with our partners to build up our outreach teams over the last few years. Come September 18th, 10 o'clock meeting at City Hall, the monthly outreach team meetings where you'll see firsthand the work they do. From the city, it's our police DART team as well, the work they do on enforcement. For us as a council, it's securing homeless housing projects. Our 1213 V Street project, 96 units. That was through a state home key grant. Recently awarded 2 other home key grants as well. So hard to see a similar sized city getting 3 grants of that nature. So we've made good progress on the housing. Need to be continually aggressive too with our other housing projects as well, and hopefully we'll see more progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Unincorporated county areas like South P Street, Cone Avenue, and Girard Avenue are within the city's sphere of influence, but mainly depend on domestic wells that are at risk of a contamination or running dry. At the same time, city residents are often unable to afford their water bill. If elected, what actions will you take to ensure that residents within the city's sphere of influence and within city limits have access to safe and affordable drinking water? You have 90 seconds. We'll start with Matt.
Thank you. Providing water is one of those core essential city functions. Water, garbage, sewer, road infrastructure. Those are the basics that a city does. Our city has a series of over 20 wells throughout our community where we take groundwater, treat it at the wells, clean it, and then it goes through pipes throughout the city, and that's how the water gets to your home. Hundreds and hundreds of miles of pipes throughout our city. So it's making sure our water department, first and foremost, has the resources it needs, as we have over the last few years. You're making sure that all the infrastructure is closely monitored, is watched. You see them constantly repairing water mains, other infrastructure underneath the city as well. So it's a source of pride for us. Also our wastewater treatment plant, which is a really impressive facility down in the southwest part of town, I apologize, which we need to maintain. When it comes to the unincorporated areas, traditionally the unincorporated areas rely on well water. The city is a big provider of water to a number of different unincorporated communities. We'll continue to do that. We're looking to expand that when we can. There's always a balance you have to make between the resources of the existing city residents and then expanding those to unincorporated areas. But we already provide a number of water hookups, and we'll continue to look to do that as best we can.
When it comes to water and access for our residents, if you ever look at a map of Merced, we do have these islands, we call them, where it's just unincorporated, surrounding by the city, basically. I've always thought this is unacceptable. I know we can't all just move that into the city at once. I know it's a lengthy process, but I believe that the areas of Merced, as she mentioned, Girard, South and Peace Street, and I think even if you look at like Sycamore and Oleander in North Merced, I mean, these are areas that never quite got the things they needed when it came to sewer, when it came to sidewalks, came to basic necessities that everyone else around them would be able to get. And these are also some of the oldest neighborhoods in Merced. So I think it's very important to incorporate them into our city. Sometimes people worry about the cost of these things. I think it's called Community Facilities District, which essentially means like a new development. Now those people there have to now pay in for services. Well, I would say that if things like that need to be set up so that the neighbors of the area could benefit from these things, then I guess that's what we have to do. But I think it's important that if you're going to try to grow the town and expand the town out, what about the areas within the town now that we haven't really given much attention to because they're in that unincorporated? Why don't we work on, instead of expanding outward, first work on what's inside us that we can control first? Let's work on the county islands, basically they're called. Let's work on those first, and then expand the town outward. But I guess you would need to develop from the inside out in order to be most effective. And it seems to me like in many parts of Merced, they failed to do that. So I think when it comes to our sewer, or when it comes to developing new neighborhoods, we really got to look at what we're doing first to the neighborhoods we have here. Thank you.
So beyond community town halls and public comment opportunities during city council meetings, what actions will you take to host opportunities for residents to engage in interactive and meaningful conversations on community needs and develop tangible solutions together? You have 90 seconds to answer this, and we'll first start off with Anthony.
Okay, great. One thing we used to do that we don't do anymore is district town halls. So each council member then goes into their specific district and does an update on what's going on in their district. I would love to bring this back. I think this would be awesome. Another thing I think we used to do that we don't do no more is the State of the City address. Mayor Murphy used to invite the entire town out to come to the State of the City, and now you get an update on where your town has been and where it's going now for the next year. I think this is a great event, and it's a shame that it's departed, but I believe we can bring it back, and it would be a great event if we did. And I can't say this is for sure because I would need the approval of others on this, but if I were elected, one thing that I would like to do is create, I guess you can call it like the Merced Mayor podcast, where I'm essentially doing maybe a half-hour podcast every week where I'm informing the residents of what's going on in their town. I'm inviting different business owners, different people of the community to talk about what they're doing in town. So now people can tune in once a week and they can hear about cool things going on in their town and businesses starting in their town. When you make people feel like they're a part of their government, when you make them feel like they're a part of their town and they're updated and informed, now they're going to want to come out and participate even more. And then let's say a building like the Senior Center or a building like this right here, we know that the state of California is going to come in and destroy this place and take it over. So maybe what we need to be doing is surveying our citizenry and saying, where do you think the next building should go? How do you think it should look? It appears that, I don't know if we've done that or not, but it doesn't appear that we've done that. And so what I'm getting at is being able to inform the citizens and ask for their opinions on things coming down the road. This makes them feel informed. This makes them feel connected. And I think this is the way you want to go if you really want to have a city where people have pride in their town continuously. Thank you.
Next is Serrato.
Thank you. Everything the city does, where the city has dozens and dozens of ways that it does outreach, from the city's social media to the utility bill newsletter to the Subscribe Merced website, where you can sign up for email links or email alerts. And so essentially everything that happens, there's an email alert about that as well. So there's a number of things that the city does. Again, council meetings, all that. And then there's a lot too that the mayor can do. And as the mayor, it's different than being a council member, whereas, when you're the mayor, there's a lot more attention on you and there's a lot more opportunity, but simultaneously there's a lot more opportunity to engage. So being accessible is something I practice every day. I pride myself on, where it's just being out, being visible in the community, and having people come up and talk to you, which is essentially a constant thing that I'm engaged in, where it comes to going to schools, when it comes to managing my own social media, where I'm making posts about things that are going on in the city almost daily, reaching out to people, having conversations online which is a great forum for political communication as well, being able to engage, talk to people, whether it's going on the news, which is something we do a lot, going on radio shows, talking with the press as well, just a variety of ways to do it. Essentially, it's all of the above, and it's something, again, I pride myself on, really trying to be an information source and being someone who communicates well about what's going on in the city.
Thank you. The police often respond to calls regarding people that are unhoused, struggling with substance abuse, or in mental health crisis. Do you think that these are matters appropriate for the police to handle? And if not, what alternatives would you propose to respond to these calls? You have 90 seconds, and we're going to start with Matt.
I think there's a mix. I think the best model, and we've seen a lot of this just in different cities play out over the last few years, the best model is a combination of police with social workers for those kind of calls. Our police department, through their community service officers, they just did a post, I believe it was yesterday, introducing a couple of our new community service officers who now are going to respond to a lot of the non-emergency calls as well. But in my conversations with outreach workers, social workers, and seeing a lot of this firsthand as well, and also dealing firsthand when we engage with the unhoused as well, is it helps a lot to have police officers there. They provide a sense of security. They're able, in many ways, to provide that umbrella of security, which allows people to do their work. In the instance where there's a very dangerous situation, they're able to address that as well. So I think it's really important to have that mix. That's what we strive to do with our police department. Our DART team partners in a big way with social workers and are, be it mostly from the county, but some of the outreach teams as well. With the mental health calls, they have all the numbers of mental health workers, and they work with them as well, call them, constantly trying to work with county mental health. So again, short answer is it takes a combination. Police can only do so much. You need the specialists and the experts in there as well too, but police have a very necessary role in it.
I think to directly answer the question, the answer would probably be sometimes. That is to say that sometimes you may need a greater law enforcement presence than other times. And I think that mostly comes down to essentially who you're dealing with. And what I'm getting at is when we talk about the homeless or the unhoused or whatever you want to call them, we almost talked about them as like, well, they're just a separate class of people that we have to deal with. But I don't believe that. I believe that anybody who might be homeless is just like you and me. I could be homeless tomorrow if that's what life brings me. And what I'm getting at is then that means that they have hopes and they have dreams as well. They are people. They have an identity. But if we don't really know who our homeless population is, if we don't really know who we're dealing with, then this means that we're going to just broad stroke and treat it all the same. But you can't do that with people because that's not how people work. What I'm getting at is we have services now, but I believe it's necessary to bring things in-house so you can have real data controlling who's actually doing what. So that way you know, when you get a phone call, oh, that's so-and-so. He's not a bad guy. He just is dealing with some stuff. Okay, let's send some people out there to help him. Or, oh, it's this other guy. Oh, man, he's been hit for thievery. He's been hit for abuse. We have to go after this a little bit harder. But if you don't know the people that you're dealing with, then you're just going to broad stroke and throw one solution out there, and it's never going to work because that's not how people are. There's not one thing that works for every single person. We have to have, I guess, different versions of enforcement versus different versions of service. But so again, it goes back to having the knowledge of knowing who you're dealing with. And I think a big part of that is working with the county, bringing things more in-house and keeping track of that data so we know who these people are and where they're going and what they can do with their lives if given the right help. Thank you.
The Merced County Association of Governments oversees Merced's public transit system. How would you make public transportation more accessible for everybody? You have 90 seconds. We'll start off with Anthony.
Yeah, I think that we really need to double down on our public transportation. I think it's almost like for a certain class of people that are aware of it, but then many of us aren't aware of what the bus maybe could do for us. So maybe we need to take a hard look at our routes and how we can make our routes better accessible. And also, I think that we could use public transportation to stimulate our economy. Let me tell you what I mean. So I have an idea, working with MCAG, that we could probably establish a new bus line. And this bus line could run from, let's say, the airport and connect the airport to downtown, specifically in front of the LCAP. And then from there to the mall. And then from the mall, there's a new, I think, bus stop on M and Cardella that they made. And then it can go across the way to the UC and then to the lake. And I think that we could do this seasonally in order to save money. But during the summer, what we could do is we can give every high school kid a pass for free over the summer. So no matter where you live in Merced, whether it's south side, whether it's north side, you can go to the lake, or you can go to the mall. I guess you can go to, I don't know why you'd want to go to the airport as a kid, but maybe you have friends in that area, you can go there. But the point I'm making is if we can give kids a pass so that way they can ride the bus for free during the summer after summer school, we can be dropping off dozens, if not hundreds of kids at the lake or at the mall. Now we're stimulating the economy. Now we're making business happen. And I also believe we should do a similar line for tourists, their own little shuttle. So when you fly into Merced, you're trying to go to Yosemite, or you fly into Merced, you're trying to go to the UC, but you have no idea where everything's at because you're a stranger. Well, now there's a line for you, and it takes you down to the El Cap Hotel. It takes you to the mall. It takes you to the UC. And now you feel like, oh, I can travel in all the best parts of Merced. Makes you want to come back to Merced. Makes us now a destination. Thank you.
Next is Serrato.
Thank you. When it comes to transit accessibility, there's a number of things that we do already. We have free summers on the bus. We've been doing that for years. So no fares, free fares all summer. They're already heavily discounted to begin with, but during the summer, free fares, that's been a big thing, a way to increase ridership. As someone on the MCAG board, I take that very seriously. And I see my friend, Coach Pastor there too. We'll go out affirmatively. I'll ride the bus myself. We've ridden it together a number of times as well. I want to see firsthand what's going on with that service. It's a really valuable thing for us to do, to get out there and to see it, interact with the people, talk with the people on the bus. We've done that a number of times. Talk to people, talk to them about the service, ways to improve it. We have paratransit as well, dial a ride. So there's a number of services that I think are underutilized in the community as well, where people can call for a ride. Free fares for seniors all the time. Free transit for seniors as well. Some of the things Anthony mentioned, we already do a lot of that. There's the Yards bus, which connects from our airport, our Amtrak, our downtown to Yosemite, runs multiple round trips every day. There's also a bus line, I think it's the M5 if I'm not mistaken, that goes from Amtrak to downtown to the UC as well. There's also the UC line. We recently have a nice new zero emissions bus for the UC, and UC Merced transit consolidation, which is a huge topic which is coming up, consolidating our transit services with UC.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, we're getting towards the end. How will you actively work to promote cultural diversity, inclusivity, and representation within local government and city events? We have 90 seconds to answer, and we're going to start with you, Matt.
Representing everybody and ensuring all voices are heard and representing all groups is really an important thing, and trying to fight hard to bring everybody together as well. All of us want similar things. We all want good quality of life. We want a safe place to live, to play, to work, to raise our kids. That's the American dream. And when it comes to us going out, working with people of all backgrounds, all socioeconomic classes, all ethnicities and racial backgrounds as well, I think it's really important. Something I pride myself on, working closely with a lot of different groups. I received an award from the NAACP, an award from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I work very closely with the Lau family, a number of different community groups as well. I've been a huge part of planning the Lau New Year festivities, honoring so many of our different businesses that are minority owned as well, and allowing them to really have a good presence in town, but really working and engaging and embracing people of all backgrounds where they want to be embraced. You meet people on their level where they want to be at their events, celebrating their traditions, celebrating their customs. That's something I really value, something I've really made a strong effort to do, and I'll continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, could you just repeat the question again? Thank you.
How will you actively work to promote cultural diversity, inclusivity, and representation within local government and city events?
Okay, great. Yeah, well, I think it's very important, obviously, to keep people informed. There are a lot of, let's say, commissions right now, and they have a lot of vacancies. That means that we need people right now, volunteers in their community, to come out and step up and make those things happen. And I would say that when it comes to diversity, it's important to reflect Merced diversity. there's a certain type of diversity in Merced that may be very different from, let's say, Los Angeles, or let's say let's say San Francisco. So what I'm getting at is the people that have known this area or from this area are generally a diverse group. I mean, it's not just one type of people. And then when new people come in, they're trying to connect with others. If we can maybe highlight ways where people can be informed about if there's vacancies at commissions or how you can approach City Hall or who's your city council member, keep people informed about what's going on in their areas, it's going to naturally increase their participation. And once the people do start participating, letting them know that we're open to new and fresh ideas, that we want their support when it comes to what they think. Now people are going to feel pride in their town. And I don't think this is necessarily something that's based on race. I think it's just basically a community feel. If you can establish hope across races, go beyond race, go beyond ethnicity, and really talk to what makes people a Mercedian, the things they see and the things they experience. If you're talking to that message, then now it's going to rally people from all sides, and you're going to get the diversity that you want. You're going to get the type of inclusivity that you need. But if it seems like the doors are closed when people try to, let's say, run for office, or when people try to get projects done, and you don't know the right people, and you don't know the right ways to move about, I think this is a hindrance when it comes to increasing diversity, and I think I've seen it in the past. Thankfully, I think things are slowly getting better, but I believe there's more we can do to accelerate it for the better in the future. Thank you.
So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the employment rate in the city of Merced is about 10%. How will you create economic opportunities that provide sustainable wages for all residents and allow them to achieve upward mobility? You have 90 seconds. We'll start off with Anthony.
Excuse me, sorry. Okay, so I think it's very important when you're talking about economic development. I did mention some things that we can do with transportation and MCAG, but let's talk about our Chamber of Commerce, for example. If you're a small business owner and you're trying to build your business or protect your business or uplift your business, it can be very difficult trying to figure out different resources in town. If you're from out of town and you're coming into town and you want to try the local charm, it could be very difficult to try to figure out what's the right place and where do you go. I think that if I were elected, I would try to work with the business community to create a Chamber of Commerce. And I think that Chamber of Commerce could be located very much near City Hall. And I think we can turn that into a Chamber of Commerce / visitor center, where now the chamber is working out of it, but different people from out of town can come into that building and they can have different brochures or different information regarding things of our town that show off our charm. I think that when it comes to the people, the working class in this town, we need to bring more industrial jobs here. When I was on council, 2016 to 2020, we worked our tail off to try to make sure we had an industrial park over by Kibbe, but that takes years to develop. Now, I haven't been on there in a few years, but when I left, we were still working on that. I can't tell you what the progress is now, but I do know that if progress needs to happen on that in order to bring the types of jobs here to make us competitive to where maybe you don't go to college, maybe you just graduate high school, but you're still able to provide for your family. Those are the types of jobs that we need for people here. So a big part of developing economic development is bringing opportunity to this area. So I think when you talk about transportation, how we can revitalize things, when you talk about things that you can do with the working class and things that you can do with small business, this is what you want to do in terms of developing your city for the better. Thank you.
Next is...
Thank you. As noted, our unemployment rate is current. Last number I saw was 9.6% countywide. But before COVID, it was a little above 10%. Spiked during COVID. Came down afterwards at the beginning of 21 to a little over 10%. We fell to about 6% in 22. And then the last number I saw was 9.6%. That's from July. That's the most recent number I saw. Our sales tax numbers have been strong the last few years. Roughly about $9 million for our Measure C, which is the half-cent sales tax, which is a lot higher than it had been in the past. From 2017 to 2020, roughly in the $6 to $6.8 million range. So we've had good, strong sales tax years, which means economic activity in a lot of ways is up in town. We've built out huge improvements to downtown, built out 2 shopping centers, the Yosemite and G Shopping Center, Campus Parkway as well. Still obviously a long way to go at the mall, but hopefully some good announcements coming soon. When it comes to economic development, jobs, huge thing. Any community, the labor force, the employers, that's the backbone of any town, and it has to be carefully cultivated, and we have to continue to work to maintain it. To our point, our Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has done incredible work on that Chamber of Commerce front. We have our City Economic Development Department. They work hard to do a lot of good things, and we get in the stop sign. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was a mouthful that you were trying to read there, right? So take a breath, because now we're down to our last question. And then you'll also have some time, perhaps, so we'll see. All right, so this is our last question. The city of Merced has a total budget of over $400 million. What is your assessment of the city's fiscal position, and what are your priorities as it relates to the city budget? So in the last 90 seconds, and we're going to start with Maserati.
Thank you. Really important question, and thank you for all these good questions. I think you see both of us really racing to get as much in as we can in the 90 seconds. The city budget is really a statement of our priorities, a statement of our policies. The most important policy that we've enacted in the last few years a city strategic planning session. We have our series of town halls leads into our strategic planning session, which enables the council members to really talk about big issues coming forward in a budget, allows us to engage better with each other. And then we go into our budget hearings too. We have 3 big budget hearings, and then we hammer out our budget. I think fiscally, to your question, the city's in very good shape. We've grown our reserves. We have a reserve that helps with our pensions. We have an economic development fund as well, which enables us for example, it enabled us to provide the matching grant to match the $17 million from the federal government to build our new airport terminal. A lot of that money is for our enterprise funds, water, sewer, and garbage. We have to maintain the health of those as our key city services as well. Our general fund has been expanding steadily and significantly in the last few years. We've run budget surpluses in the last few years. So fiscally, we're in good shape. And I think we've made a lot of good decisions on where to allocate our funding. It's a big topic of conversation, a lot of voices involved, but when it comes to our wins on housing, parks, police department's in a good spot, all that.
Thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, can we repeat the question one more time?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
The city of Merced has a total budget of over $400 million. What is your assessment of the city's fiscal position, and what are your priorities as it relates to the city budget?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think that when it comes to our current budget situation, it's actually not been that bad. I mean, we're actually doing a pretty decent job hanging in there. But you look nationally, you look at what's in the news, and you look at basically what's coming down the line in terms of the numbers. There seems to be economic trouble on the horizon. And I'm not talking Merced, I'm talking everywhere. And we all know that when economic trouble hits the nation, it hits Merced especially hard. And so I think we need to start preparing for this right now by basically galvanizing our community to start making money for ourselves and our small businesses. This is why I was preaching earlier about things like vendors in the park. It is very important that our small businesses have more opportunities to basically make sales. So the more sales they can make here, then the more money we're going to have here. We have things like, let's say, the downtown supermarket, I think they call it. These have been very nice events that have been started up. The Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, they've done that Mercado night that allows vendors to get out there. Events like this is what's going to help carry us through these dark times, because now we're at least rallying the community and galvanizing things so they can invest in Merced. We need to double down on events like this. This is why I'm talking about things like the State of the City, which I believe was a great day for Merced and really highlighted a lot of things and let people shop downtown. When it comes to the budget priorities, personally, I think it's also worth investing in your community. If the hard times are coming, which they are, we're going to need to invest in things like our workforce and job training and things like that. We're going to need to invest more in our parks. We're going to need to invest more in our youth, because if nothing else, we want to create a community where people feel pride and people feel like they don't have to go out of town to shop, because it's just as safe as it needs to be here, and they have everything they need right here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Anthony. Now we've come to the end of our questions. As we come to the end of our forum, we would like to thank both candidates for their insightful contributions. Thank you so much. We now move to the final segment of our forum, the closing statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to summarize their key points and share their final thoughts with the audience. Let's begin with Anthony Martinez. Anthony Martinez first.
Thank you. I can say that I guess my priority for me personally is to live by example. So what I'm getting at is I believe that generally what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to rally the community, and I'm trying to invigorate hope, and I'm trying to galvanize small businesses in this area, and I'm trying to show people a plan, show people a vision for how we can evolve as a town. And I really believe that, I don't know, you can call it spirituality, God, whatever, but I believe that There's always a time for everything, and nothing happens until it's the time. And I believe that right now is our time. I believe that the only people that are going to change this town are the average Mercedians. It will not be Donald Trump. It will not be Kamala Harris. It will not be Gavin Newsom or High Speed Rail or any other outside entity coming in. You and I, we are going to change this town for the better, but only if we can face ourselves and understand where we're at and where we would like to go. We take the good things that have happened and we elevate those and we add more to it. The bad things that have happened, the mistakes that we've made, we discard those and we evolve beyond that. It's not about calling people out. It's not about throwing people under the bus, and it's not about heads have to roll. No, I'm simply talking about evolution. I'm talking about self-reflection. I'm talking about improvement. We have this type of attitude. We can refine all the departments of City Hall. We can refine all the great contributions of this community, and we can elevate them. But it starts from within. And so this is why I have the slogan, follow your heart, because I genuinely believe as a man that if you can look inside and see where you're at and who you are and why you are, then you can evolve. If this works as a man, this will work as a town as well. And that's my plan. Thank you. Thank you.
It's truly been the honor of a lifetime to serve as your mayor these last 4 years. I've put my heart and soul into it every step of the way. Really done my best to bring with a big sense of urgency, because our time is so precious here, our time is so limited, with a big sense of urgency to try to accomplish as much as we can, to try to involve the community as much as possible, because one person, you find out quick in this business, one person can do very little. The 520 or so employees of the city, we can only do so much. But as a community of 90,000 plus people, we can really accomplish a lot. So when it comes to involving, and I see, one of my favorite groups back there, Girl Scout Troop 2263, all of them, and working with them closely, developing them as young future leaders as well, and seeing all the incredible work that they do. And not just them, all kinds of other community groups as well. Engaging just an hour or so ago, engaging 30 or 40 students from the UC who came out to our park cleanup to help clean up Joe Herb Park. They were out there working with them. A lot of them are going to stay in our town. A lot of these kids, when you work with them, you inspire them. They're going to move on and do better things. So I'm proud of so many of our accomplishments over the last few years. Again, I got 10 seconds, but our work on homelessness, downtown, our economic development, parks, and then with an eye going forward towards doing much better with economic development and getting the stop sign. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
So now, if time allows, now we would take some audience questions. If you've written a question on one of the postcards, please hand them to Blanca or Luis, who are going around collecting them.
Do you guys have time for some additional questions? We want to ask that before we start asking them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Once again, my name is Blanca Ojeda. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we did get some questions submitted online, but we also want to take some time to see if we could address some of the audience questions here. The first question is, how will you develop trusting relationships with residents so they can share their concerns with you and count that you will be true to your word? And we'll start with you, Mr. Serrato.
Thank you, Blanca. Again, that's been a huge area of concern for me and a big priority for me. It's fundamental to being a mayor, especially a mayor in the town the size of Merced, where you're very visible, where you're out, where people see you, where you're constantly engaging with people. So in terms of being accessible, in terms of talking to people, again, something I pride myself very much on, and being proactive about it too, going into schools, working with community groups. Starting right now, I'm really excited about this too, to working, and we'll hopefully have a meeting in the next few weeks, to getting all the service clubs and service-oriented groups to really come together and look as a way where they can sort of build a community service coalition that people can work together. They have a forum where they can talk, be it the service clubs, the nonprofits, our scout troops. We've already seen big success. We've already seen the realization of that with our scout troops and our Boy Scout troops as well, with their their Green Scout program, where various Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops have adopted community parks, and now they take those over. They do monthly cleanups. I'm there when I can to support them. and they work in conjunction with our Parks and Rec department to do that. So that's one one example out of hundreds of things we do. But it's getting out there every day, talking to people, and engaging honestly and genuinely, and hearing their concerns as well.
Are you able to repeat the question for me?
How will you develop trusting relationships with residents so they can share their concerns with you and count that you will be true to your word?
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about establishing trust, it sounds like. Well, as I mentioned previously, you definitely want to create a sense of town pride with certain events that I talked about bringing back, the State of the City address, district town halls. I really think it'd be cool to start a podcast citywide. I think that'd be awesome. But I also think that the stuff that I talked about when it comes to like yoga in the park, well, this isn't just for families. I'll be out there doing yoga with y'all too. Music in the park, showing your face at all these events. They see you now as a person, not just an authority figure, but as one of them. And that's really how I want to be interpreted by the community, as one of them, because I am one of you. I am an average Mercedian. I did not grow up super wealthy or super connected, but hey, I'm here now. And that means that I guess anybody here can do it if I'm here. So I think showing that to the community will go a long way into them opening their hearts to you. Now, once they do open their heart to you and you tell them what you're going to do and they tell you, well, these are my concerns, now you need to hear them out and produce results. Now, when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got this problem in my neighborhood with this, or I've got this issue with that, now you've got to produce results. And if you can produce results and let them know that you may not be able to solve everything, but if you let them know that your heart is into fixing what's wrong with their neighborhood, then they will give you a chance and they will be patient with you and they will be willing to work with you and trust you because they know that you're going to bust your hide for them. And I say that's really what I'm about, is working hard for people and figuring out creative ways to get done what needs to get done. There's a lot of times people try to get things done and then the answer is no because we don't have this or no because we can't do that. Well, then let's think of a different way. Let's think of a workaround. I'm all about figuring out new ways to make things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question is, what tangible, concrete goals and action steps would you have for your time in office? We'll start with you, Mr. Anthony Martinez.
Okay, great. So I did talk about economic development, which is definitely one of my goals. Certain things when it comes to building the industrial park, galvanizing the small business community with a strong economic chamber of commerce, and moving teenagers across town through places where people can shop. Establishing vendors in the park and different citywide events. I think this will go a long way in towards establishing economic development priority. I believe that we need to, I don't want to sound harsh here, but I kind of feel like there's an ambiance with our town that just doesn't seem to sit right with many people. There's a lot of graffiti. There's a lot of boarded up buildings. There's a lot of people on drugs in the streets. We have to figure out a way to clean up this town, the aesthetics of this town, so people can have pride in their town and feel safe like they're going to shop places. Some people don't want to go downtown because they're worried about what their little kids may see while they're down there. This is unacceptable in my opinion. So cleaning up the certain sides of town is a very big priority for me. The last priority, which I think is the most important, is I believe in many respects our town is scattered as a community. That's not to say there aren't good people trying to do good things, but I don't know if there's any unified force that all of us are on board with, that we all know, okay, here's where we're going as a city. Here's what we're doing and here's why. Here's what it's all for. I want to give the people identity, purpose, so they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I believe this is how you galvanize people as a whole to really elevate this town. Talk is talk about coming together. But if you can show them that I'm here with you and I'm trying to bring us all together and this is bigger than us, this is about values we're trying to establish for our town, now you have a foundation that we can really rally people under. Or I guess maybe over for a foundation. You know what I mean. Thank you.
When it comes to, I think it's a really good question because the old line, politics being the art of the possible. There's all kinds of things you can do, you can set your mind to. You can set your mind to really worthy goals, but oftentimes they're not achievable given the resources you got. So your priorities too are very important as well. The need, and there's not just our community, but nationwide as well, the need is a lot bigger than your resources. So what your priorities are really matters. Where you're going to focus your attention, where you're going to focus your time. We set early on in my term, I remember sitting down with the city manager and the county's director of housing and homelessness, and we said, I would love to see 200 homeless-focused units in the city of Merced within the next few years. We were able to essentially, through everything, exceed that. Not all done yet, but many coming. We're going to have in excess of that as well. That was one specific achievable goal. So we need to set goals and then figure out how to get there. Those goals are important because they need to be realistic and achievable. So, and again, with a number of different specific examples of things we've done over the last few years, be it that, be it restoring the Ada Givens Pool, the development at CP42, the sports complex, some of the downtown improvements, welcome monuments, which are supposed to break ground very soon. The art, 50 plus, early on too, I sat down with a couple of people who said, we need more art in this town. How are we going to do it? We privately fundraise for it, and there's probably 50 plus pieces of art all around town as well.
Thank you so much. And then we do have 2 audience questions that we want to be able to address. I know we're at time. We want to make sure we also respect your time. Do you have time to answer those last 2 questions? Perfect. So the first question is, what vision do you have for addressing the changes, disruptions, and opportunities that we are starting to see coming with the high-speed rail? And then we'll start with you, Mr. Serrato.
Huge question. That's going to be a big issue coming in the near term. I'll talk as fast as I can with 90 seconds. The facility relocations. This facility in the senior center. I was over at the senior center just a week ago Friday, answering questions, talking to people about it. This has been on our radar for years and years. There's a ton of unknowns at this point. So the state, how much are they going to offer initially for these facilities? Are we going to have to fight them on that? What's that process going to look like? What is the construction? Their construction timeline's a big thing. High-speed rail, according to the initial estimates, was supposed to be built statewide by 2021. It hasn't exactly happened yet. So we have to look at their construction timeline. What's their timeline for right-of-way acquisition as well? If they acquire these properties and own these properties, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to demolish them right away, because then you have to look at what's their construction timeline. So in the meantime, is a sale leaseback opportunity most likely a very good opportunity to do that, where even though they acquire these properties, they're not going to tear them down right away. And the existing tenants and existing uses can continue as well. So once we see what resources are available for replacement, then we have to look at it with the goal of having a replacement in place, preferably a full-time permanent better replacement, if not an interim placement in place by the time that these buildings start coming down. I firmly believe that given all the work we've done over the last few years, given a lot of the options we have, we can do that. But a complex question, tons of unknowns still, and we'll keep working towards it.
I'm going to ask you if you can repeat the question again, please.
Yes. So what vision do you have for addressing the changes, disruptions, and opportunities that we are starting to see coming with the high-speed rail?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so when it comes to high-speed rail, this is the funny thing about Merced. Sometimes, and I've grown up here, I've been around here a long time, sometimes Merced struggles to change. And what I've learned about the world, the only thing that doesn't change about the world is it is always changing. So what this means is if you don't evolve yourself, then you basically grow old and stale and die. And it kind of works the same way with a community at large, is that if you don't change and you don't evolve, then the state's going to change for you, or corporations are going to come to town and change the place for you, or other entities are going to come change this place for us. And I think that's what's happening with high-speed rail, is now they're coming in and they're going to basically change the look of downtown to the likes of which we've never seen around here. So in order for us to make sure that this works to our benefit for us, it is imperative that the general community, all of you all, are informed and up to date and participate in the process of what's going to happen. When we're talking about things like, demolishing this building or that building, it is very important that you guys have input on where the next youth center or where the next senior center is going to go. And this is not something that we need money for. We don't need money to have a survey across town of what type of area we want to be in. So what I'm getting at is informing the public and getting ideas from the public. And now they're going to feel much more connected to their town. So we can now change high-speed rail the way we want to change it, not the other way around. I also believe you need to work on your South Merced, specifically the airport area. There's a lot of great economic opportunity in the South Merced area, specifically near the airport, if we have a vision for it. Why is this essential? Because in the future, when they do get here, we're going to need a hospital down there. We're going to need movie theaters down there and grocery stores down there, because they're going to be very separated from due to high-speed rail. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have our last and final question. How will you engage the citizens of South Merced to make sure we have input on what we want? And we'll start with you, Mr. Martinez.
Sure. Well, let me just say that the thing about Merced, I know we sometimes get into discussion of North Merced, South Merced, and certainly South Merced, there's a lot that needs to be done in order to keep up with some advances that we made. But this is Merced. We are all connected. We are all connected as one community. So what I would do for South Merced would be very similar to what I do with other parts of Merced. And I think it is about establishing information district town halls. I think it's about showing support to different businesses in South Merced, working with the zoning to redevelop zoning in different areas of South Merced. For example, over by the airport, a lot of it is industrial, but I got to wonder if we're the most competitive with all that industrial zoning out there. What if we were to change it to office commercial and start pushing for government organizations to start being out there? What that would do is it would increase certain traffic of people with certain levels of income, and this would get the attention of other businesses to maybe move in there. I also think you can work with the airport in order to establish Merced as a destination and a departure. I talked earlier about how we're a destination, but I didn't talk about how we're a departure. Going to Vegas, I see a wonderful possibility of what if we were to pair with the Raider Nation fan base where it comes to Fresno, when it comes to Madera, when it comes to Stockton, Modesto, Merced, and basically pitch that you can go to the Raider game, Vegas and back in the same day. You could literally get on the plane in the morning, go party in Vegas, catch the game, you're back on the red line in Merced. Or maybe even take the weekend to do it. If we could establish that, maybe one day someone wants to build a hotel out there now. So now over time, we're moving people out there, we're changing up the scenery, and now businesses are coming to the area. This, I believe, in the future could eventually lead to possible grocery store or possibly hospital as the houses zoned in that area now develop.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, that was a quick 90 seconds of conversation. So I missed you again. I can miss you. I won't miss you. You got the last talk on
No,
that.
thank you. When it comes to South Merced priorities, making sure South Merced voices are heard, I think being on the inside, seeing everything we do in the city is something we're focused on for sure. South Merced is a big area of need, especially being one of the older parts in town. South Merced downtown being primarily the older parts of town. There are different infrastructure needs in those areas with the older roads, big mature trees that can cause issues as well. So there's a lot of different, they're unique in that way. But it's being engaged in South Merced. It's something I've really have strived to do in a big way. Spending time, in whichever way, being downtown or being in South Merced, being familiar with the whole area as well, working with residents, talking to residents, and I think we've seen in a lot of ways the prioritization of South Merced development and a lot of investment in South Merced in the last few years. You look at everything that's gone into McNamara Park, some of the road projects, again, still a lot more need for other things, a couple of significant sidewalk projects, the Golden Valley to Weaver, the Motel Drive project, number of projects going in right now, the R to 13th, or the R Street Childs to 13th project. So a lot of infrastructure needs, big thing, quality of life, continue working towards, with our federal partners, our state partners as well, to attract grants, be it a fire training center, our new airport terminal, which is going up quickly, making good progress. And mayor's got to listen to when they put this out.
I know, the messy. Time goes really, really quick. Okay, so this is it. We're at the end of this. And I really, really want to thank both candidates for taking the extra time to answer extra questions from the audience and online. And I want to really thank everybody who has come and participated today. And, we went really fast, but it was really good. A lot of good conversation and sharing of vision and what the future of Merced could look like depending upon who gets into these positions. I'd also like to thank all of the great organizations who put on this event: ACLU, CNC, Cultiva El Valle Central, Central Valley Up, Faith in the Valley, and the Leadership Council with the wonderful Youth Leadership Institute. As a reminder, all registered voters will receive their ballot at the early part of October, and you'll have till Tuesday, November 5th to cast your vote. So don't delay. Thank you so much, and hope that you have a great Saturday, the rest of your day and weekend. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much. That's it.